hit that subscribe button before we dive in. A second for you, but it means everything for me. The rain was steady, dripping off the brim of my cap as I stood at the graveside in full dress uniform. The wool clung heavy to my skin, suffocating like it didn't belong on me anymore. Like none of this belonged to me. The ceremony was stiff, sterile. No stories, no laughter, just the drone of prayer and the muted patter of raindrops on canvas. My brother Marcus would have despised this. He lived loud, first to crack a joke, first to throw a punch, first to pull me into trouble I didn't ask for. Seeing him lowered into the ground with nothing but whispers and forced frowns felt wrong. My husband, Daniel, stood beside me, his hand gripping mine too tightly. It didn't feel like comfort, it felt like a warning. My parents sat front row, faces unreadable, suits pressed like they were at a Senate hearing. My father gave the priest a curt nod as though he'd signed off on the whole thing. My mother adjusted her pearls mid-prayer. And then the casket dropped. My chest seized, my throat tight. My hand drifted to my pocket out of habit. Muscle memory from combat, from boredom, from grief. My phone buzzed once. Marcus's number. I'm not dead. That's not me. Every hair on my body stood on end. I scanned the tree line, the hearse, the crowd. No one looked back. Just the hiss of rain on soil. Another buzz. They're listening. Don't trust Daniel. Don't trust Mom or Dad. My knees nearly buckled, but I forced my jaw tight, my face neutral. Soldiers know how to keep secrets on their skin. When the final words were spoken, the crowd broke apart like smoke. Daniel leaned close, his breath cold on my ear. We should go. I nodded, but every instinct screamed. That night I didn't sleep, lying still while Daniel curled against me like nothing had shattered. My body stayed locked, breath even, but inside, alarms blared. That wasn't Marcus in the box. And the enemy wasn't out there somewhere. The enemy was inside my home. Before dawn, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my car keys and left without a word. My car ate up the miles to Marcus's place. A dingy studio above a tire shop with a neon sign that hadn't glowed right in years. He'd always liked it there. Cheap, forgotten, easy to disappear into. But when I pushed open the door, my gut twisted. The place wasn't messy, it was gutted. No guitar propped against the wall. No open notebooks with half-written lyrics. No old boots by the bed. Even the lava lamp he swore he'd never part with was gone. The only things left: a jar of mayonnaise and a single beer in the fridge. Marcus hated mayo. I froze. This wasn't just cleaned. This was staged. Sanitized. Someone wanted Marcus erased. And then the Marine in me took over. We grew up hiding things from Mom when she was on one of her rampages. Notes, toy soldiers, little pieces of ourselves. Marcus had always been good at hiding in plain sight. I walked straight to the old dresser he'd hauled from our parents' attic. Dragged it from the wall. Just like I thought, an outlet cover that wasn't real. I pried it off, and inside the hollow drywall was a Ziploc bag taped deep. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, it keeps this story alive. My pulse was hammering as I tore open the Ziploc. Inside was a burner phone, old but still holding charge. My fingers trembled, not from fear but from the kind of adrenaline that hits right before combat. I powered it on, bracing for some locked screen I couldn't crack. Instead, a passcode screen blinked up. I tried the first thing that came to mind. An old code Marcus and I used when we were kids, hidden in a PlayStation cheat we thought no one else knew. Shadow 98. The phone unlocked. No texts. No photos. Just 3 contacts: J. Fox Gray. And one lone video file. I sank onto the bare mattress, thumb hovering before I tapped. The screen flickered and there he was. Marcus. His face gaunt, sweaty, a long cut down his cheek. He was outside somewhere, trees swaying behind him, wind breaking across the mic. If you're watching this, he said, voice shaking but steady, then either I got out, or I didn't. My throat closed. The funeral, it's a setup. Someone close arranged it. I'm not safe. And you're not either if they think you're asking questions. He leaned closer, whisper rough. Start with Daniel. He's not who you think. And if you've got guts, ask Dad about Maverick Pines. He faltered like he was weighing whether to keep talking. Then, don't trust Mom. She's in deeper than either of us knew. The screen jolted as though he stumbled. I found files, things I wasn't supposed to see. Names. Projects. Enough to bring everything down. That's why I ran. That's why they want me gone. The video cut. No goodbye. My chest heaved like I'd sprinted a mile in boots. This wasn't paranoia. My brother had staged his own death to dodge something lethal. And now he was warning me about my own family, my husband, my parents. I sat still, clutching the phone to my chest like it might vanish if I loosened my grip. Out the window, the tree line seemed to watch me back. I knew where I had to go next. By Sunday afternoon, I was pulling into my parents' driveway. Same cracked siding, same untrimmed hedge, but the air pressed heavy like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. Dad was behind the grill in the backyard, apron faded from old deployments, a can of Coors sweating in his hand. He didn't look up. Burgers and brats. You hungry? I ignored the script. Dropped into a chair across from him, fists locked beneath the table. What happened at Maverick Pines? The spatula froze mid-air. Grease hissed as a burger charred, but he didn't flinch. Slowly his head turned, eyes pinning me. Where'd you hear that name? Marcus, I said. My voice was steel. He sent me a message. Said the funeral was a cover. Said everything ties back there. The fire popped, spitting smoke, but Dad didn't move. His jaw worked before his voice came low, the kind you use when ghosts are close enough to overhear. Maverick Pines wasn't a base. It was a contract site. Private money. Military oversight only on paper. No ranks. No uniforms. No rules. He finally killed the flame, but the air between us was hotter than fire. I was there. Logistics. Intake. Not on the ground floor, but enough to see what was happening. They called it neurological performance enhancement. Human trials. Memory rewrites. Reflex acceleration. Sensory rewiring. And Marcus. His gaze cut to the trees like the past itself was hiding there. Marcus got hurt. 2 years back. You remember that, don't you? Yeah, I muttered. Bike wreck. Cracked ribs. Concussion. Dad shook his head, the corners of his mouth flat. That's the story they fed you. Wasn't an accident. After that fall he signed himself up. Called it rehab. Truth? It was entry into the program. He took a long pull from his beer, jaw working. They ran him through a custom track. Implants, neurochem pairing trauma to response. The goal was to see how far a mind could be pushed when it shared pain with another. Twins were perfect subjects. My stomach dropped. You let them experiment on him? I didn't let anything. His tone snapped sharp. He volunteered. He was of age. Thought he was repairing himself. But it worked, right? I pushed. Whatever they did, it stuck. He stared at the flames, licking blackened meat like they held answers. It worked, he admitted finally, until it didn't. He started blacking out. Feeling things that weren't his. Echoes. Yours. I blinked, throat tight. That's not even possible. It is now, Dad said flatly. That's why they shut the trial down on paper. But off the books. The money men saw potential. Not treatment. Conditioning. They called it asset retention. Strip out the self. Program loyalty into soldiers by rewriting how they process fear and love. My breath came shallow, like I'd just run 10 miles in armor. So Marcus faked his death to break out of that circus? Dad's eyes flicked up, steel hard. He didn't stage his exit for kicks. He had to vanish before they erased him for real. He stole something before he ran. Full data dumps. Personnel rosters, funding lines, operational schedules. If you've seen him on video, if he reached out, then the wrong person slipped. You weren't supposed to know he was alive. I watched it, I said, heat rising in my chest. He warned me. Told me not to trust you. Not Mom either. Dad leaned heavy against the deck rail, shoulders sagging like the weight finally hit. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. You think I wanted this? 2 years I've been waiting for a knock on the door. Wondering which morning I'd wake up and find out both of you were gone. I tried, you hear me? They locked me out. I was a contractor. No authority. Your mother, she stayed inside longer than me. The back of my neck prickled. What does Mom know? He didn't answer. Just looked away, jaw set. That silence said enough. I want the files. Names. Anything. He let out a humorless chuckle. You think I kept trophies? No. I buried it all when they told me to. He stepped closer, his eyes sharp as glass. You've got 2 options now, vanish or pick up where he left off. But stay in the middle. He shook his head. They'll chew you up. I stood without another word. No handshake. No thank you. Just boots on wood planks as I walked off that deck and left him there with his grill smoke. That night I barely slept. Dreams twisted into jagged flashes. Marcus shouting in the woods, Lauren's ice-cold whisper against my skin, Dad flipping burgers like the world wasn't burning. By dawn I'd already printed every scrap from the burner, stuffed a duffel and aimed the truck north. Marcus had one person left who might care enough to talk. His ex. I drove north for nearly an hour, defroster rattling against the windshield, my thoughts clawing at each other the whole way. The route wound through narrow switchbacks, snow-dusted pines crowding the road like they wanted to swallow the truck whole. Just past a half-rotted wooden sign for a scenic river overlook, I spotted it. A squat cabin half hidden behind fir trees, porch bulb glowing weak and yellow, like it had been burning for years without being changed. I pulled in slow, engine ticking as it cooled, and walked up the steps. My finger hadn't even touched the doorbell when the door cracked open. A pair of wary eyes studied me. "You look like him," she whispered. I gave a short nod. "I'm not. Name's Nathan." Her gaze flicked over my face like she was searching for flaws in a forged ID. After a moment she opened the door wider and stepped back. "Come in." The air inside hit me like a wall. Lavender and hot electronics. A desk groaned under piles of papers, flash drives and binders. The far wall was a patchwork of pinned files, maps and red string like something straight out of a counterintel debrief. "You want coffee? Water?" she asked. "No. I want answers." Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't turn around. "He's alive, isn't he?" I didn't waste time lying. "Yeah." Her breath caught sharp through her nose before she walked to the desk. "If he reached out to you, it means he's cornered." "I need to know what Maverick Pines really was," I said, stepping closer. "And how far this route runs." For a long beat she said nothing. Then she unlocked a bottom drawer and hauled out a metal case heavy enough to thud against the desk. "I cut ties years ago. But if they knew I still had this." She popped the latches. Inside, files stamped with seals, medical charts, photos of injection rigs, neural scans, and one image that stopped me cold. Marcus, shirt off, chest wired with electrodes, his eyes half dead, like the soul had slipped out and left his body behind. "I was his handler," she said, voice low now. "He never knew. They set me up through a fake placement service. Looked like chance. Wasn't." My fists curled. "So you were spying on him the whole time?" Her jaw flexed. "That's how it started. BioTrack Health, it was a front. My orders were to track his vitals, note triggers, run staged scenarios. Everything went in a report. But then I saw what it did to him. The gaps in memory. The bleeding. Reflexes no human should have. And yeah," her voice cracked, then tightened again. "I cared about him." I turned toward the wall of pinned notes, scanning the jargon scrawled across sheets. Certain words glared back like warnings. Behavioral sync. Trauma pairing. Stalwart, phase 2. "What the hell is stalwart?" I asked. Her tone shifted, flat, clinical, like she had to shut down emotion just to say it. Stalwart was an unsanctioned continuation of Maverick Pines. They believed identical twins offered the highest success rate for neural crossover. Same DNA. Same scars. Same childhood trauma. The theory was simple: link one mind to another's core. Forge soldiers who couldn't fracture under pressure because their anchor wasn't themselves anymore. My gut twisted. I was no longer just chasing my brother. I was staring at the reason he'd vanished. The sticky note stared back at me, stalwart. Not a code name anymore, not science fiction. It was real, ugly, and it had my brother's fingerprints all over it. My stomach knotted as I asked, "What exactly did they do to him?" She slid a scan across the desk. Gray matter lit up with jagged streaks of white. They embedded biofeedback nodes along his parietal cortex. Fed him microdoses of experimental stimulants. Then they engineered environments, controlled chaos, to hardwire his brain under pressure. That's where I came in. My job was to steady him one day and break him the next. I felt the room tilt. "You're saying the memory blackouts, the anger, the way he unraveled, none of it was random?" Her gaze hardened. Every second of it was deliberate. My grip tightened on the chair back. "Why Aaron?" "Because he dug where he shouldn't. During one of the sync trials, his mind crossed with another subject. A kid. Not in his unit. That pushed him to dig deeper. He found a hidden roster, cross-checked files, then ripped a drive before anyone noticed. My chest went cold. You have it. She shook her head. He kept the original. I've got indexes, just enough to prove what he touched. Then where is he now? She opened her laptop, fingers tapping quick. A satellite grid blinked on screen, centered on a block of state-owned forest. Dense, unmarked, miles from any tower. A single red blip pulsed. He let me track him only in case it came to this, she said. I stared at the map. Nothing but trees and silence. And if I go in? Her eyes softened just for a moment. You won't come out the same. I almost laughed, bitter. I haven't been the same since the day they lowered that casket. She didn't argue. Just pressed a flash drive into my palm. Then you're ready. I left with the files burning a hole in my jacket and drove until the asphalt turned to dirt, until the GPS froze 2 miles short of the beacon. I killed the engine, stepped out into the kind of silence that eats sound whole. Slinging the duffel over my shoulder, I pushed into the tree line. The deeper I went, the more wrong the forest felt. No birds, no wind, just the crunch of my boots on damp earth. I checked the tracker twice, praying the signal hadn't died. Then I saw it. A shack half collapsed, swallowed in moss. Like it had been waiting 50 years for me to find it. I raised my voice, low and steady. Aaron. It's Nate. The quiet dragged, then the door creaked. He stepped out slow. My breath caught. His frame was thinner, his eyes burned sharp and hollow, a dirty sweatshirt hanging off his shoulders, jeans caked with mud. A jagged scar split the side of his neck, a mark I didn't recognize. And for the first time since the funeral, I was staring at my brother in the flesh. You shouldn't be here. Aaron's voice was steady, but his eyes were ice. You're alive, I breathed. He didn't smile. Just swung the shack door open wider. Inside. Now. The room was smaller than it looked from outside, a box of rotting timber and gasoline stench. One corner held a rolled sleeping bag, a dented laptop, and a steel lockbox that looked heavier than the floorboards holding it. I dropped my duffel, heart rattling in my chest. I know Aaron. About Lauren. About Mom. That. Olivia. Maverick Pines. He leaned into the shadows, arms folded. So they finally broke. Figures. That's always their move. He crouched to the lockbox, flipped it open and spread the contents across the floor. 3 flash drives, crumpled reports, and a thick envelope sealed in red tape. Then he held up a photo. 2 kids, barely 10, blindfolded, their small heads wired into machines. This is what they did. Not just to me. Not just to us. To anyone they thought they could control. The picture seared my hands like it carried its own heat. I shoved it back at him, throat dry. I stayed out here until I pulled enough proof, he said. And when I did, the bodies started stacking. 3 test subjects gone in a month. All ruled accidents. Right after I grabbed this. He tapped the red-taped envelope. That's when they came hunting. A twig snapped outside. Sharp, deliberate. Aaron was on me in an instant, fist in my collar, dragging me toward the back wall. His face was pure fury. You led them here? I didn't. My voice cracked. My gut twisted. Did I? Another crunch. Boots. Slow-paced. Not 1 pair, 2, maybe 3. Aaron ripped up a floorboard, reached down and yanked free a Glock. Then he tossed me another, metal heavy in my palms. Run or fight, he said. Run where? My throat was sand. He peered through a crack in the wall, voice dropping to a whisper. Too late. Then came a voice outside. Come. Surgical. Nathan. Aaron. Hand over the drive. Nobody has to die tonight. I looked at Aaron, panic clawing up my ribs. What's the plan? His eyes didn't even blink. Which side do you shoot from, right or left? I don't even. He slapped a spare clip into my palm. Figure it out. I crouched low against the doorframe, gun raised, arms trembling. Sweat stung my eyes. Aaron moved like he'd done this 100 times. Precise, quiet, already scanning exits. He popped a hidden hatch in the back. Barely wide enough to crawl through. They think they've got us cornered. That's our edge. They've got numbers, I hissed. And gear. He slid a magazine home with a clean click. We've got truth. And surprise. Another snap, this one off to the side like they were spreading out. Go, Aaron ordered. I'll cover and seal behind us. What if they storm in? His gaze was cold fire. Then we don't miss. I dropped through the hatch, belly to dirt, and dragged myself out under a tangle of roots. I pressed behind a slick rock bed, chest heaving. Seconds later, Aaron slipped out beside me without a sound. We crouched low behind a fallen log. The footsteps closed in. You really think this is worth dying for? I whispered. Aaron's jaw flexed. His voice was iron. It's worth not letting them win. Another voice rose, closer. Hand over the files. You walk away. That's the deal. Aaron cut his eyes to me. That's a lie. They'll erase us no matter what. But not before they torch the evidence. I raised the gun, and for the first time my hands didn't shake. Fear sharpened into something useful. Aaron nodded once, quick. Then pointed east. Through the trees, I spotted a shadow of steel rising above the canopy. A fire tower. That's where we upload, he said. I blinked. Now. He gave me the faintest grin. Grim, fleeting. Now. Then he bolted, weaving through the underbrush like he'd memorized every root and rock. I chased him, lungs burning, branches slicing at my arms. Behind us, the shack blew apart in chaos. Doors kicked with splintering, boots pounding. And then came the hiss of suppressed fire. Not random blasts. Controlled. Professional. They were hunting us, clean and efficient. We didn't stop. We couldn't. We had one shot. And nowhere else to run. They weren't just pressing us. They were closing the book. Aaron kept checking over his shoulder, gauging distance by instinct. 500 out, he muttered. Keep your feet under you. I stumbled on a root, slammed shoulder first into a trunk, caught myself and kept running. My lungs were on fire, legs like deadweight concrete, but we never slowed. The fire tower loomed ahead, a jagged skeleton against the sky. Rusted steel bones. Faded paint peeling. The whole thing swayed in the wind like it might collapse if you breathed too hard. Aaron never hesitated. He hit the ladder and climbed, moving like a man who'd practiced this route in his sleep. Gone over the lip before I even touched the first rung. Every step up was a war. Palms slick, boot soles slipping. The higher I went, the more the wind screamed in my ears. When I hauled myself onto the platform, it felt like standing on top of a matchstick in a storm. Nothing but trees stretched for miles, an endless ocean of green hiding the wolves circling below. Aaron already had gear spread out. A booster rig, an old laptop, flash drive sliding into place. His hands moved quick, efficient, no wasted motion. What's on it? I asked, crouching beside him, chest still hammering. He didn't look up. Not just experiments. It's programming. Brainwashing. Worse. His jaw was set, his eyes locked on the progress bar. They paired us, mostly twins. Broke us down. Built us back up until loyalty wasn't about love. It was instinct. Muscle memory. They weren't teaching trust. They were engineering obedience. My stomach turned. They did that to us? Aaron nodded once, bitter. And when we didn't break, when we stayed bonded instead of tearing each other apart. That made us a problem. The laptop beeped. Status bar crawled. Upload started. How we hold, he said. I slid to the edge, Glock up, peering down the tree line. Movement. Fast, deliberate. One shape darted left, another right, low and tight like train sweepers. I gripped the gun harder but held fire. Blowing our angle too early meant we were finished. Once it hit satellite, Aaron said, voice low but steady, it replicates to 46 dead drops worldwide. They can't bury it. Not anymore. Then we just have to live long enough to see it. The ladder shivered. Metal groaned. Someone was climbing. Aaron pivoted, rifle up. We crouched at the opening, breathing shallow, weapons steady. The first boot appeared. Aaron squeezed twice. 2 sharp cracks, then a scream cut short. A body slammed into the dirt below. Silence again. My chest heaved. Holy. Reload. His command was flat, mechanical. I jammed a fresh mag in with trembling fingers, slammed the slide home. Aaron glanced at the laptop. 78%. They're regrouping, he said. Not a question. Feck. We went prone, low against the deck. The tower rattled in the wind, every gust making the bolts scream. I scanned the treeline. Caught a silhouette, rifle leveled, waiting. Watching. No rush. Like a sniper calculating the cleanest angle. Why now? I whispered. Aaron's teeth clenched. Because they've been purging every leak, every liability. You showing up forced their clock to zero. Olivia's next. My throat went dry. She's safe. His silence said everything. 91%. The wind picked up, rattling the tower until it felt like the whole structure would peel apart. My sleeve dragged across my face, wiping sweat into the grit stinging my skin. We waited. Not breathing. Not moving. The bar ticked higher. 98%. The forest below was silent. Too silent. Like the world was waiting for the moment to break. I edged closer to the laptop, ready to throw my body over it if I had to. Upload complete. A green checkmark blinked across the screen like salvation. Aaron exhaled hard, shoulders finally loosening. It's out. The woods froze. No gunfire. No crunch of boots. No shadows moving between trees. Whoever had been circling us, vanished. I waited for the snap of a twig, a cough, something. Nothing. Just silence heavy enough to choke on. What now? I asked. Aaron leaned against the rail, rifle still across his chest. Now we see if they're really gone. So we waited. An hour, maybe more, I lost count. Finally we climbed down. The clearing was empty. The shack still stood in the distance, untouched. A bird called once, the first natural sound I'd heard in hours. The truth was out now. But what came after, the firestorm, the exposure, the reckoning, that was out of our hands. All we could do was survive it. By the time we got back to town, the fuse was already lit. Headlines multiplying like shrapnel. Reddit threads, Telegram dumps, mirrored blogs with timestamps. Someone had grabbed the data and scattered it everywhere. Exactly as planned. Within 24 hours it was global. Documents naming dates, footage of kids strapped to tables, clinical notes on forced separation drills. Some of the names matched cold case lists going back 15 years. Most were forgotten ghosts. One photo seared itself into me. A boy staring into the lens, eyes hollow, already gone inside. On the fourth file I saw my parents' names. Dad, Asset Logistics. Mom, full license number under psychometric gatekeeper. Not sidelines. Not assistants. Core architects. And then Lauren. Her photo beside a Glint Research ID badge. Evaluator. Bond fracture metrics. She'd been monitoring me for years. The morning the mainstream outlets picked it up, she called. Straight to voicemail. Her voice cracked like she'd been crying. Nate, I didn't want this. My dad was sick. The money, I didn't think it would go this far. Please just call me. I listened once. Then I deleted it, blocked her. Aaron and I holed up 200 miles west, a highway motel that reeked of coffee grounds and diesel. The TV in the corner never shut off. Every crawl read the same. Project Stalwart leak. Some called us patriots. Others swore we were fabrications, deep plants. Extremist podcasts ranted about rival agencies. The public couldn't agree on what was real, but they knew one thing. The story wasn't going away. On the third day, black SUVs rolled into the lot. My pulse spiked. Aaron's hand went straight to the Glock on the nightstand. But no raid came. Instead, a woman in plain clothes, red blouse, no jewelry, eyes like she hadn't slept in weeks, knocked on our door. She handed me a burner phone with 3 numbers saved and a folder of subpoenas. You did the right thing, she said flatly. But you don't get normal back. Then she was gone. Indictments dropped that night. Supervisors. Executives at Glint. Doctors who'd signed off on the neurostress trials. Even a colonel listed as an ethics auditor. All named. All cornered. The press called it one of the largest private intelligence crackdowns in U.S. history. Lauren filed divorce papers inside a week. I signed them blind. She could keep the house, the car, every stick of furniture. But not my name. She hadn't earned that. 2 weeks later, I watched a grainy live stream of my parents in handcuffs, marched out of a gated Arizona community. Mom's face was as I remembered, cold, immaculate, untouched by shame. Dad's head hung low, jaw set like a man bracing for impact. They pled down. Not life but close. Their reputations erased, licenses stripped, pensions gone. That night I sat on the edge of the motel bed, burner phone sweating in my palm like it was explosive. Waiting for a knock. For retaliation. For the next war. Silencers. That's what I expected, the clean kind of end. Dad, my phone buzzed. A text from Madison. I don't know what's true anymore, Dad. But I believe you. I read it 5 times, thumb frozen over the screen. Didn't answer. Couldn't. Just sat there staring, feeling the ground steady beneath me for the first time in months. Aaron caught me looking different. You good? I nodded once. Yeah. Think so. That night I actually slept. First time in weeks. The feds bounced us around for 2 months after the leak. Safe houses, motel rooms with curtains stapled shut, IDs that didn't match our faces. And then one day they just stopped calling. Left us to our own paths. 1 year later, Aaron vanished into the wilds of Montana. Off-grid near Kalispell. Solar panels with stove, no signal unless he needed it. He built a greenhouse, tinkered with busted radios like it was therapy. No visitors. Few calls. That was the deal. He disappeared, I stayed visible. I went back east and built something small. A 3-room office with a nameplate that read, "The Dwyer Foundation for Whistleblower Defense." Not glamorous. Just a space where scared people could walk in and not be ignored. Where secrets didn't get buried, they got documented, routed, exposed. Some days I forgot how it started. Just a text. A funeral. An empty box with my brother's name on it. But then I'd see Aaron's face again. The man who burned down his own life just to drag the truth into the light, and I'd remember. The truth doesn't stay buried. Not forever. We only agreed to 1 interview. A documentary crew had been hunting us for months. They flew us out under fake names, put us in hotel rooms with no windows, stripped our phones before filming. The director leaned forward. Why now? I didn't blink. Because we're done being handled. Aaron was beside me, arms crossed, jaw locked like he was carved from stone. He leaned into the mic, because if we don't speak, the next experiment has someone else's kid strapped to a table. The silence after wasn't doubt. It was understanding. We weren't after revenge anymore. Not payback, not punishment. Just light. Enough to blind the ones who thought they could operate forever in the shadows. And for once it worked. I don't sleep with a pistol under my pillow now. I don't flinch when black SUVs pull in behind me. I sleep knowing we made noise loud enough to shake the ground. Loud enough to wake the dead. And louder than that, we made them listen. Would you have gone into the woods if it was your brother on the run? Drop it in the comments. And if you're still here, smash that like button and subscribe for more. YouTube's about to suggest another story for you. Let's see if they got it right.